Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you for Jackie. When this all started, I am Dr. Timothy Stanley Lima, PhD. Uh, so about myself, I just want to quickly introduce myself. Uh, so, wala nang niya si Ong Beng P. So, I'll be today's facilitator for Session 1 Panel and Talk Show, Latangs Outside of Manila. Before we move on to the following interviews, I would like to briefly introduce myself. I kaisa ako kay So, first off is, kuan Davao Tutsi, nung esensun, kapun kateng swaki bipok. So, Taiwan bikok kohan, bikok tak sio yo and high school. So, to high school bigyan yo, tsaka one I could admit kakako or dentistry. And kaususan wa what's a kiati Davao. So, background, I was born in Davao City, moved to the US at 2 years old. I grew up there practically, elementary, middle, high school. Then I moved back to Davao at 18, where I went to college, dentistry. And then just last year I passed the board exam. Just a few pictures of me and my parents, and at the PICC. Go back to the second slide, please. PICC, and then that's my oath taking. Next slide. And then a few pictures that of me during high school in the US. That's me before, and then I was part of our marching band. Next slide. So I just want to trace my ancestry down to my paternal ancestry, which is from a small village called Yachu in Tin Kang, Hokkien. And my maternal ancestry also is from Tin Kang, but don't know the details so much. And those are pictures of my Taima and Taiko. Next. And then that arrow, the red arrow there pointed is where Inti is located, the ancestral village. It's within Tin Kang City. Next slide. And fun fact, just last week I had the opportunity to go to our ancestral village, and that's how it looks like over there. That's the house of my Taiko before. It was my first time going over there. So yeah, that's it. Anyways, next slide. So thank you for listening. That was interesting a little bit. In any case, we'll be interviewing the following persons: si Dr. Jewel Yang, Jonas Chan, and Lisbeth Lim. So please welcome the first interviewee, si Dr. Jewel Yang.
Thank you for that, Tim. So, good morning, everyone. So, can we go to the next slide? So, before preparing for this symposium, I asked myself a simple question: what does it really mean to be Lanang? A few years ago, I honestly don't think I could have answered that. I knew I was Chinese by heritage, but I couldn't speak Hokkien. I knew very little about our traditions, and if I'm being completely honest, I never really felt the need to learn more. It wasn't until recently that I realized that being Lanang is so much more than speaking a language. It's about our stories, our values, our families, and the community that shaped us. So before I share what I've learned, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Dr. Jewel Davis Yang. I was born and raised in Davao City. I passed the ELE last April 2025, and although I'm a doctor, I'm currently helping manage our family's computer business here in Davao. Outside of work, my hobby include running, hiking, and pickleball. So next slide, please. So our family story began long before I was born. My grandparents came from Guangzhou, Guangdong Province, and Langhua, Fujian Province. During a difficult period in China's history, they made a courageous decision to leave their homeland in search for a safer future for their family rather than remain where they could be called in a military service. They crossed the sea by boat, a journey that took about a week, and today my siblings and I are fourth generation descendants. So, sometimes I think if they hadn't had the courage to make the journey, I wouldn't be standing here today. In many ways, my story and the stories of many of us in this room began on that voyage across the sea. Now growing up, I live in what I would call a Chinese household. Next slide, please. So, one of my earliest memories is seeing my grandma carrying a little red book. So as a child, I had no idea what it was. She would open it and say things like the bed shouldn't face the door, the stairs shouldn't be directly in front of the entrance, and those two doors shouldn't face each other. Apparently, if they did, all sorts of bad things would happen. Years later, I finally learned that that mysterious red book was a feng shui book. She also loved talking about zodiac signs, and every year she'd tell us, this is your lucky color. Or you should be careful with your health this year, or this isn't a good year to make big decisions. Back then I thought, wow, my grandma really has that opinion. Only later did I realize these beliefs were actually part of the culture she grew up with. Then there was my dad. Next slide, please. So, my dad was your typical Chinese father. He believed in many of the superstitions that as a child I thought were ridiculous. We only bought white cars because they were considered lucky. Breaking a plate or cup was never just an accident. Even seeing a black cat somehow made a family discussion. But my favorite story happened when my sister got a cat. So she proudly announced, I want to name him Buchi. So my dad immediately said no. So we asked why. He said because Buchi sounded like Oti, which means no money. Apparently, even the cat's name had to attract prosperity. Besides the superstitions, my parents also taught us values that I appreciate much more today. Next slide, please. So, we weren't encouraged to buy toys or unnecessary things, instead we were taught to save. Academic excellence was also rewarded. Whenever my siblings and I received honor, where my dad would give us money, and the amount depended on whether we got first, second, or third. Looking back, I don't think he was simply paying us for good grades. He was teaching us that discipline, diligence, and hard work produce results. At home, we mostly spoke English and Tagalog with just a little bit of Hokkien. As we like to say, hiao tia, boy hiao kong. I understand, but I don't know how to speak. Next slide, please. So I studied at Davao Christian High School, where many of my classmates also came from Phil-Chai families. Because of that, I really never questioned my identity. Everything felt normal. Next slide, please. Then I went to San Pedro College, in which most of my classmates spoke Bisaya fluently. Well, I did not. Sometimes they laughed at my pronunciation, not in a hurtful way, but it was just obvious that I sounded different. So what surprised me even more wasn't the language, it was the freedom they had. They could go on overnight trips, stay out late, study in coffee shops until midnight. Meanwhile, if I was at home by 10 o'clock, my mom was already fuming. Back then, I thought my parents are so strict. Now, after talking with my fellow Lanang friends, I realized maybe my parents weren't just strict. Maybe they were just Chinese. Later, I moved to Cebu for medical school. Ironically, the farther that I went from home, the closer I became to my roots. I spent time with my ama, and I learned a few more Hokkien words, listened to family stories, watched Chinese television, and realized and experienced more than a way of life. At that time, I honestly didn't appreciate it very much. I get nosebleed every time I visit her because of the Hokkien she speaks. So looking back now, I wish I had paid more attention. For many years, I never felt the need to reconnect with my Chinese heritage. I thought knowing a few Hokkien phrases was enough. Next slide, please. But after returning to Davao, God opened unexpected doors. Through Davao Evangelical Church, I met many Filipino-Chinese families and friends, especially through the Young Professional Fellowship. And through this community, something changed. I realized that identity isn't just inherited, it is cultivated. Next slide, please. So being Lanang isn't only about having Chinese blood, it isn't only about speaking Hokkien fluently, it's about remembering where we came from, honoring the sacrifices of our great-grandparents, living out the values they passed down to us, and preserving those values for the next generation. When I look around this room, I imagine many of us have similar stories. Maybe your parents also insisted on saving before spending, maybe your family also owns a business, or maybe you've heard Hokkien your whole life but still struggle to speak it. Those shared experiences remind us that culture isn't just something we inherit, it's something we continue to live. That's why gatherings like this are so important. So, I'm still learning, I'm still rediscovering what it means to be Lanang, and I'm grateful that I get to be on that journey with all of you. Thank you very much.
Sabi Davao, so I'd like to introduce myself first. So from Davao to somewhere in the middle of the country. So I'd like to introduce myself. Gamiakot Santrua, Bani Inotaya. So before we go to a bit of my family story, I would like to share a little bit of information about how Lanang lived in Iloilo, and let's go in the general sense. First, let me share the earliest recorded contact between Iloilo and the Chinese. So the earliest contact between Iloilo and China dates back to the pre-Hispanic era, primarily between the 10th and the 12th centuries. So Chinese merchants initially traded from ship decks and makeshift postal stations, later establishing permanent settlements were what we call as Parian. So political turmoil and atrocities in mainland China, particularly in Emong, led many to flee that area. Some of these Chinese migrants arrived and settled in Parian, so now known as Molo, Iloilo City, historically known as Iloilo's first Chinese settlement. The establishment of the Parian settlement became the ground zero for the birth of the Ilocos-based Lanang. Next slide. Apologies for the font. It came from the researcher himself. So here's a list of the earliest recorded last names of Mestizos de Sati. So if you have like this, chances are you have relatives or connections from Molo. Some of the well-known, we have here Danzon, Guanzon, Kaoxian, Takson, Laison, Locsin, Ingson, and Yulo, to name a few. You might see your family names there.
I pressed it.
Next slide, please. If you want to learn more about the history of how the Lanangs evolved in Iloilo in the earlier part of the history, so you will take picture of the QR code. It contains a PDF file of first or 10th to 12th century of Lanangs in Iloilo. By the way, that yellow building right there, it has the same developer of the very famous building in Hong Kong, which Filipinos frequently book for their accommodations, budget accommodations. Have you heard of Chongqing Mansions in Hong Kong? So the building was actually developed by Ilonggo Lanang. His name is Jaime Chua Tianpo. Next slide. So for the recent history, over time, many Lanams developed sugar estates and businesses conglomerates, not only in Iloilo but also the rest of Western Visayas and Negros. One very famous was the family of Jose Marichan. They were very famous in developing sugar estates. So Lanam influence extended across politics, arts and entertainment, business and other sectors. That guy down there, his name is Edgar Ejapsia. He was born in Capiz, but he spent his formative years in Iloilo. He is the founder of Mang Inasal and a member of the Board of Trustees of Double Dragon, which develops Hotel 101, which is opening here in Davao by the end of this month. And I'm sick also, as I toured the city. You have a lot of Imperial Appliance plazas there, here. The owner is also from Iloilo, the Q family. So family associations and fraternities and places of worship for major religions was also established for the Lanam community. And from these organizations were born Chinese schools in Iloilo. Next slide. So from 5, we currently have 4 lang in Iloilo. The first one, Ilongwasyo Haki. It was established in 1912, and it is the second oldest Chinese school in the country. It is famously known as Chinese Commercial. It was founded by the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Iloilo, and some of our notable alumni are Senator Chan, James Yap, Itchap Shaduli. Second one is Sun Yat-sen High School of Iloilo, Ilong, Gyeongsat, Gyeongho. It was established in 1925, but it was actually established not by Landams, but people of Cantonese descent. But because most of the people in Iloilo, of course, are like here in Davao are Landams, it is more popular by the name of Gyeongsam. And then the third one, also not Landam established, but it was established by the Jesuits from China, who were expelled and sent to the Philippines. So that is Ateneo to Santa Maria Catholic School. And the more recent one was established in 2004 was Iloilo Scholastic Academy. Yeah. So that person right there, his name is Sandos Chiu Kim She. He's a highly respected philanthropist from Iloilo who initiated the Operation Barrio Schools. It is a nationwide program for the Filipino-Chinese for the Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry in 1961. So it has spread na. And I think some public schools here in Davao have also benefited from this program. The second bullet, yes, the LGU was an official liaison for the Lanam in the greater Chinese community, just like here in Davao, although yours is a bit greater because of the old Chinatown Council. And just like this one, the letter in the far right, it was actually a letter of vigilance, open letter, sent by some of the Lanam organizations. They actually congratulate the city government for the transparency efforts, but also they're saying like, we're watching you. So the Lanam community is very vigilant in also being a voice of the people when there are some issues. That's how I understand that the Lanam community is in Iloilo. That's the picture of Jose Marichan, doctor. He was given an award by the city government as a famous son of the city. So during the peak of COVID-19, Iloilo was nicknamed as the Wakanda of the Philippines because of its strong lockdown measures. This is a great example on how Lanams are very Filipino, as the concept of bayanihan was greatly shown by their donations, making sure every barangay has food for all families every day, so people don't have to go out and break rules just to get food. So, Iloilo City, out of the many cultural involvement and Namsa, of course, as a foodie, we take pride in our food. So recently, Iloilo was declared as the first UNESCO City of Gastronomy in the country. And most, if not all, Lanam cuisine is made or heavily influenced by the Lanam. So the most popular ones are bak choy. So some historians would say that the choy comes from katsui, koye, sabaw. And yung pancit molo, which is a local version of a Chinese dumpling soup. And of course, when you say Iloilo, one restaurant that comes to your mind in Roberto, say Siopao. And lastly, of course, just like in Davao, the biggest way of showing our cultural involvement is through the yearly celebration of Chutiet, or Chinese New Year. It is one of the three major festivals backed by the ordinance. It started in 2003, that's considered as the biggest and longest established Chinese New Year celebration outside of Binondo in Kapatri, with activities running for a week and a half or more, giving Lantangs an avenue to share, live out their culture, and initiate camaraderie and fellowship efforts for the other members of the Ilonggo community. Next slide. So, last part, a bit personal. So our family name, Chan, is actually shrouded in mystery. Next slide. So this started when our great-grandma, Luisa Lim, was a daughter of an immigrant from Lemong. So they settled first in Cebu in their family's search for a better life outside of Manila. Next slide. They opened up a business there when a guy named Cirilo Rojo, a landang from Negros Occidental, applied as a worker for their business in search of a better income. Throughout Cirilo's life and service to the Lim family, young Luisa was so amazed with Cirilo's hard work and dedication to his craft, and eventually she fell for him. But little did she know that the dedication Cirilo has was not only for the work he applied for, but also to impress Luisa, who he also has his eyes for. In the end, amidst all odds, including Luisa's family-raising eyebrow, they ended up being a couple. They transferred to Iloilo for a more better life. So they bore fruit to the first 9 roots of our family. Over time, another wave of migration happened when half of their children decided to move and settle in the hometown of Cirilo and Negros. Next slide, please. We have 2 mysteries of our last name. The first mystery is this. Cirilo's family name is Rojo, and Luisa's last name is Lim. However, the children was surnamed Lim first. One theory was because of the security reasons brought about by away sa negosyo. The thinking that children would have a better opportunity in life if they bear a more Chinese-sounding family name. So they decided to follow the mother's surname, Lim. It's like, and the second mystery naman, from how did it end up Chan from Lim? So another theory was to protect the family from their enemies. They decided to transfer again from Cebu to Negros, then change surnames for security to Chan. All of these theories are currently from my oldest living member of our family, because sadly, Cirilo and Luisa never shared the true reasons behind the name changes to those who are currently alive. So to end, my family story might be the same as all of us. Growing up in a multicultural family, father side Lana, mother side Filipino-Spanish, I could not speak Latangre proficiently because at my home, my mother could not understand or join our conversations. But though the language is like the lungs of the body of our identity as Lantangs, there's also the heart, the hands, and etc., where we live it out in other great ways. So let us just keep on learning, discovering, and celebrating whatever Lantang is within us. Together, never allow the flame of our culture be trampled by anyone that's pulling our progress down. Tosya.
So hi, it's me again. So Taikeho Taki. So maybe if I feel that some of you are looking a little sleepy and downing lots of coffee already, so please stand up for a little bit. I would just like you to say or practice a few words in Nanang voice. Okay? So, 第二个边naulang ho. So, if there is someone seated to your left, look at them, greet them with ho, pi. And look at the person to your right. Tell them, Bi kinaulay wa jinhwahi. That means I am very happy that you are here today. So again, no, Bi kinaulay wa jinhwahi. So sige, you may take your seats now. So ayan, no, I would like to reintroduce myself. My name is Lisbeth Marie. No, get to know me as Aitana from Asia's Latin City, which is Zamboanga City. So next slide, please. So ayan, no, that was me last year in Lanang Symposium 2025. So were there people who were there na are here also today? Mga attendees from last year, may I see a show of hands? I think Auntie Betty, Uncle John, and someone over there, no? Thank you for coming to Davao's edition of the Lanang Symposium. So you know, I graduated with an MBA. No, I took it in Taiwan many years ago. So I was born and raised in Zamboanga City. That gives me a very unique superpower. No, that makes me multilingual. So can you guess maybe how many languages I know how to speak? Who said 5? So 5 is correct, no? Kasi growing up in Zamboanga, I learned how to speak Tagalog, English, Chabacano, and Tagalog. No? So given that, no, that is a good problem for me at this point in time na parang I can process several languages in my head at the same time. To the fascination of my students, every time I have to step out of the classroom and pick up a call from my parents, and they ask me, Lausher, because I teach Mandarin to college kids in Zamboanga. So they ask me, Lausher, what was that I just heard from you? That's not the Mandarin you are teaching us. Sabi ko, oh, I speak Hokkien also to my family. And then they go, oh wow, dami namang alam ni Lausher. Ikaw lang. So I get that kind of reaction all the time from my students. So currently, I'm in the fields of tourism and education. Kasi I also am helping out in our family business, which is a travel agency. And not too long ago, I just got accredited as a tour guide for Zamboanga City. So next slide po. So I took my primary and secondary education in Zamboanga City, specifically Zamboanga Chonga High School. And then I moved to Manila for college. I went to DLSU, Manila. I took BS Entrepreneurship. So probably something that many lanangs in my generation would think na ay napasok din siya sa field of business. Kasi yun nga, no, there are a lot of lanangs in my generation who are expected to take over their family businesses in one way or another. Afterwards, after finishing college, not long after, I went to Taiwan to pursue my master's degree in business administration because I was able to get a full tuition scholarship for that university. So, next slide po. Now, so understanding my roots, I got to talk to some of the people in our second generation, kasi I'm third gen, no? And then I got to talk to my uncles, my aunties, and this is the info that they gave me. So our roots are from Naghabi in Fujian, no? So in Fujian, China, so there is a village called Nanxiameicun. So my father's side of the family came from there. And then yung maternal grandfather ko naman, he came from Tata in the same province, no? Kumbaga, within the same city, but just a different village, no? And then my maternal grandmother naman was born in the Philippines, but to Chinese parents also. So my maternal great-grandfather naman, he is an immigrant. So he came from Xiamen, China. So next po. No? So we have an ever-growing family. So these are old photos from 2016 onwards. No?
Kasi I would like to highlight na the generations keep coming. So after us, no, my fourth generation na po kami. No? Like my cousins, because I'm belonging to the age group wherein I am one of the youngest, no, but not the youngest, kasi there are still kids much younger than me in my family, no. Some of them are getting married soon, so expecting that there will be additional family members naman na contact. So the two pictures here sa baba, no, are showing members of the fourth generation already, specifically through my cousins, no. So three kids, no, and then this is yung baby pictures ng mga fourth gen namin is on the pinaka-left of this second row. And then this is my immediate family with my grandma when she was still here, no? So, ayun. And our relatives from China who came all the way to the Philippines to take part in our family celebrations. So, my experience naman is that given that we had these cousins come over, no? And that I took my Chinese studies pretty seriously back in high school na to the surprise of everybody, ended up being the Chinese valedictorian for my batch. So that greatly helped me, no? Kasi it made me be able to relate to our family in China na if they have concerns, if they want to get to talk to people, they come to me, I be their interpreter, I relay information from the China side to the Philippine side, and from the Philippine side to the China side. So, next po tayo. So, there are landmarks in Zamboanga City, given that we have 3 Chinese schools still in operation, no, at the moment. So, yung school na pinanggalingan ko, which is Zamboanga Chonga High School, it's the oldest Chinese school in the city, established 1919. Then we also have St. Joseph's School, no? It's established in 1965, no? Catholic schools in so they have religion classes as well. Now, the Buddhist school came later, not long after, no? Came into the picture, and then sila, no? Their pinaka-landmark of their school is one of the Chinese temples in Zamboanga. So, what you see first is the temple, and then when you go to the back side of their area, no? Yung school na sa likod, the temple is in front. So, we have several members of the community who took their education in these institutions, and they still continue to shape the community in Zamboanga right now. So, next po tayo. So, how language shaped my life and career. So, I mentioned earlier that I graduated valedictorian for my Chinese classes back in the day. Now, that was almost 20 years ago din, no? So, given that I knew a lot of Mandarin at the time, I realized at some point na hindi pwedeng Mandarin lang yung alam ko, no? I also had to be fluent or at least understand better Hokkien, no? Or Lanaway. Kasi, yun nga, talking to the people in our community, especially those involved in the family associations, they default to Lanaway. And I had to exert extra brain power to be able to understand Lanaway better kasi my default was Mandarin to the point that I can pass proficiency exams, level 5, level 6. I can qualify for that. But then if you compare my Hokkien abilities, it's much lower. And I decided that, oh, it's time that I do something about it. Now, my skills, I bring my Hokkien speaking, understanding, listening skills up to where my Mandarin level is. And given that I wanted to learn more about Hokkien, that is how I encountered TLA. And the Lanang Archives is what's giving me the motivation to do much better in Hokkien in terms of spreading the language, being more involved in the community. I owe a lot to TLA, no? So we have collaborated a while back, no? And that is how I'm standing here today as a volunteer at MC and someone who truly wishes that my contributions to the community will be fruitful as well. So I believe this is my last slide. No? Can you please check if the next, if you are new to learning Lanang, it's never too late to learn a new language. You need to act your cup, you need to be open to learning kasi your open-mindedness will get you so far. No? Don't be shy to ask questions. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's really part of the learning process, yung making mistakes na yan. And then know your why and stay the course. And always, always, always keep in mind that practice makes progress, not perfection. So, ayun po for my part, no? Thank you so much for listening. And I would like to gather the rest of the panelists up on stage so that we can have the talk show portion naman so that you'll get to know more about our respective experiences.
Now we're in the panel discussion portion, the talk show portion of this session. Let's have a warm-up, opening warm-up questions. Let's see, the first question here, where are you guys from and what makes your hometowns Lanang community unique? Someone else.
So, hi again, I'm Elizabeth. I'm from Zamboanga City. So, what makes my Lanang community unique is that, you know, once in a while we get Chabacano inserted into our sentences, and I don't think you'll be able to hear that elsewhere, no? So, we also have our version of a language salad that involves Hokkien, Tagalog, sometimes Tausug even, no? If there are people who know how to speak that. And yun yung version namin of a multiple code switch happening at the same time.
And again, Jonas from Iloilo. Ilonggo Lanangs are typically reserved. They don't like to show off. They're isang tanong, isang sagot. And that's one great example of the stereotype in that area na one question, one answer lang.
Hi again, I'm Jewel from Davao. So what makes Lanang here unique is that I think everybody knows everybody. So when you mention a name, they're like, oh, is that our family name? So they know everyone.
Yeah, that's very interesting, no? Basta nasa probinsya, parang mas tight-knit community, but it's like, and then the interesting mix of languages within each hometown. So let's get into the more detailed questions. Lanang life in different regions. First question here would be, what are some Lanang traditions or practices in your region that people from other areas might not know about?
Traditions or how we move there. Ilonggo Lanangs never back down when asking for discounts when buying things. Even if I actually encountered someone even if nasa wall, of course walls have a fixed price na, but she will go to the cashier and really beg for discounts. So that's kind of weird, but sometimes that's somewhat, especially double bill Lanangs.
Yes, for Davao and Yos, they're not straightforward. So when they ask for something, they kind of like go around the bush. So shy pa kami mag-ask straight to the point.
So I guess for us, maybe a little bit of practices. Like sometimes in the community, we see people like maybe during January 1 New Year and the Chinese New Year, like we are able to integrate like a mix of religious practices, like going to the temple in the morning and then going to church in the afternoon to pray for blessings, pray for good health, better business opportunities, So there's that, and I guess that's what I have to say about the Zamboanga Lanang.
very interesting about the traditions. No? And then, as we can go into that more. How do people in your area celebrate Chinese holidays such as Lunar New Year? Go into that.
So kami, like, siguro for my family, immediate family specifically, I was somehow oriented on how to read the lunar calendar, to know which dates to make offerings, like Choy It Zago, maybe some of you are familiar with that, or like integrating practices na parang, I don't know if it's common, but there are some relatives of mine na bag Choy It Zago Jakso. So they eat vegetarian on Choy It and Zago in the lunar calendar. Pero we also do Tiam Hiu Shoki, and then maybe go to other people's houses to, say auspicious words, give blessings, and giving angpao to the kids is always a fun thing to see.
Me naman, personally, sa family, not much in the traditional way. During Chonsiat, we just go to Mass, Chonsiat and Misa. We have a parish there. We celebrate the Lunar New Year Mass and then Yam Hiu, like that. But in a general sense, like what I said earlier, Chinese New Year Festival, food fest, cultural shows, fireworks, mga ganun po.
So for our family naman, we just eat at home, and then usually we prepare like we hang like pineapples on our doors, or like we put a bowl full of rice and coins on top of it.
Okay. Now, aside from the four-spirit Chinese naman for the Protestant, but do you think Lanams in your city also feel part of the broader Filipino community? Yes or no, and why or why not?
I guess for ours, there's a slight disconnect because there's difference in culture and attitude.
Actually, it depends on your status. If you're someone higher, then sometimes you even become the moral compass of the whole city. That if you're somewhat small, they attack you with their typical Chinese ka.
I think being Lanang in Zamboanga, there is a certain level of influence that we have over the non-Lanangs, Kasi, kumbaga, like, if you look around Zamboanga City and look at the different establishments, you will see, this is owned by Lanang, there's a hotel owned by the Lanang, there is the Tiam owned by the Lanang, Sige, yok pang si Lanang yan. So, kumbaga, in a way, we can blend in properly with the non-Lanangs in our community. But it's just that we are noticeable sometimes na parang they'll be able to pinpoint like what kanina was mentioned na everybody knows everybody in a particular Lanang community. That is also applicable in Zamboanga. So, kumbaga, if you ask, this is Shanghai chief, who are your relatives, Name one, they'll be able to enumerate your entire family tree. So, may mga ganyang instances, pero if the non-Lanangs talk to us, we welcome them, we treat them fairly, we're able to, come up with something na parang if they need help, we assist them. So, I think it's a balance naman, Although na masasabi natin na the influence of being a Lanang is very, very obvious and visible if it was from the perspective of a non-Lanang.
That's right. Even though we are Chinese by blood, we should always remember that we have Chinese blood, but we are also Filipino at the heart. Okay, anyways, let's move on to the part 2 of this session, the language, speech, and everyday talk. What languages or language combinations do Lanangs in your region usually speak? Hokkien, Tagalog, Bisaya, Anakoy, or Tabagalog for that matter. Can you give like an example, dialogue perhaps of each? Maybe you could demonstrate that. Demonstrate that.
Iloilo, we have mixed Iligaynon and mostly Hokkien, Lanang. I think there's less than 2% of Lanang speaking in Mandarin, even though most schools are teaching in Mandarin now. But one example is that my uncle would always say, "Ayya, naman." Like, he's tired, and then he will say, "Ayya," and then he will continue with Iligaynon and sometimes some curse words in Lanang, which I will not speak.
So for us, we have a mixture of Hokkien, Bisaya, and Tagalog. So we actually mix it in sentences like Unbeki, Jimol, later gabi. So it's in one sentence, it's all there.
So, like for us naman in Zamboanga, like in my immediate family specifically, I would like to highlight my dad's language abilities. Kasi he speaks Hokkien, he speaks Tagalog, he speaks English, Tausug, Bisaya, no? Chabacano also. So, he'll be able to come up with a mix of all 6 of those. Pero, yun nga, when he's talking to me specifically, a lot of Hokkien, Chabacano gets mixed in one sentence. English, sometimes no, pero mostly what I notice when he's talking to me, giving me instructions, he will be incorporating a lot of Hokkien and Chabacano together. English, not so much, pero it gets sprinkled in little by little.
Sige. Let's move on. Let's make this a little more interactive. Let's involve the audience as well. Because I have a list of words in English that perhaps you can try the audience to translate into Hokkien or their version of Hokkien. Let's give away. Okay.
There are microphones in the stands.
Who wants to demonstrate? Let's see. I'll just call the word first, and then you guys raise your hand, and I'll pick someone. Okay? Anyone want to demonstrate how to say refrigerator? Refrigerator. Yes.
Yeah.
Come over here.
Is that on? Lower.
Sensemdo? Tama, okay, good. After. Okay, how about air conditioner? Conditioner. Aircon.
So for us, no, we say Yankee.
Same as Yankee.
I don't know how.
Yankee.
Yes, tama. Unanimously. Sige. How about doctor?
Iseng.
First.
Iseng.
Well, I guess there are many ways to say the thing, right? So let's have each table think of what the answer is for each table, and then we will pick some tables to give their answer. Because these words have a lot of variation, supposedly. So we're gonna see if everyone has the same word for it, or do people have different words for it. Okay, so earlier, what's the name again? As you saw, said Sumdu for refrigerator. Are there other words for refrigerator in Anapoy? That's kind of the idea.
Okay, so what I would say for doctor would be but does anyone have another variant for that? Maybe a different pronunciation?
Ikaw na siya. Ito daw? Doctor. Ito. Wala kayo.
We'll move on. How about
Wait. I'd like to add, no? Kasi I have some relatives in Zamboanga who would say Iseng.
Tama Tama, yes. It's also very bad.
So, pero sometimes kasi I hear more ism than ising, no? Pero I think very, ano naman, very minor, subtle difference lang naman.
The
Yes.
East is Mandarin.
For the next word, child or bata.
Child ba? Child.
For us, we say kina.
Same kina.
Also.
Anyone else?
All right. So for this word, there's two ways, at least two ways of saying it. There's kina, or to the G, kina, or even kana, or yeah. So which one do you use?
Kanma is
Right. So maybe let's do like a raise of hands. Who here says kina with a K? Kina, raise your hands for child.
Gina. Aji.
Gina.
Energy.
Higher. We can't see your hands.
Yeah, that's.
All right. Next, kina with a G.
Gina.
I mean, I use kina. All right. Kana. Oh, you use both. Some people use both. Either way, right? So that's how it is. So next word.
Okay, next word. Let's see. To say something. To say. Third. Oh, okay.
Kong.
So I hear kong or sek.
Ni Kong siya.
Who in the audience says set?
Set.
The audience. Raise hand. There's a few.
Your hand set.
That's very nice. There's diversity.
Set or Kong.
Now next, how about hotel? There's a few ways to say hotel. How do you guys say it?
Lisha.
Isya.
Bisya. Okay.
Lisha. 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 Lisha.
I hear Lisha a lot also, but I know that there are people who would say Chutyam or Pyongyang also.
Chiltian is Mandarin.
Anyone else says those? There's a raised hand. Would like to demonstrate?
A lot of times in Davao, we also call it the one.
Do one.
Yeah, hotel.
Do one.
Wait, hotel, right?
Yeah, hotel, yes.
The one.
Do one. Oh, that's very interesting.
Meme.
Okay. Let's see something. There's at least two ways to say this one. Lawyer. Lawyer. Just might be funny a little bit.
So the way I hear it in Zamboanga, we say Zengbusi.
So for my family, because we engage with a Taiwan lawyer, so we say tutsu.
Okay, the Su, the Su ending is a little bit more of a Siamese pronunciation.
Yeah, like
Yes.
ishu, like after.
Su. And the C pronunciation, more of the Zitka, S, more of the Zhuanjiu. That's very interesting because there are variants involved there. How about to make a payment? How do you guys make say pay?
May futsi.
Pala, yes. Okay.
So I hear pada or paga.
Yes, pala, paga, those are descended from Spanish, I believe, Spanish bark. How?
Paga.
Yes.
Paga in Chocofano, Spanish is pay.
How about who says Juan? Who says King?
Eng.
Who says Juan first? Juan. Raise your hands. Okay, there's a few. How about Heng? Heng Ji? There's a lot. There's a lot also.
Yes, and also.
Yeah, it's interchangeable. You know. Let's pick the last one.
I have a question actually. So, do you guys think that the choice of words, like let's say pala and kenti or kenti, is it a regional thing? Like, for example, is it the case that in Manila we always say pala, and then in other like Visayas or Mindanao you use kenti or Juan?
Juan or Heng?
Yeah, so I just want you to guys discuss and see whether it's a regional thing or, yeah, what do you guys think? Regional? Okay, who here in the room thinks it's a regional thing? Meaning you only use Kianti you never use para ever outside of your region. Who here uses more Hienzi? Again, I was just going to see the hands earlier. Who said Hienzi? Okay, where are you from? Davao, right? Is anyone here who raised their hand from Manila but uses Hienzi?
Wanti.
One, you use Hienzi?
But that means cash.
Cash.
现金.
Ah, okay. So there's a meaning difference. Hienzi in Manila could mean cash, but not necessarily to pay. The verb.
Wanti is
Wanti.
pay. Wanti is pay.
To pay. What is
Yeah.
The cash is
现金。
现金.
Hienzi. Hienzi. Okay.
For paying is one. Hienzi, wanti.
Yeah. So if you want to contact, you better have to go to the microphone because I don't think other people can hear. Anyway, let's move on.
Sige, this one interesting word here. I think we might be 50-50 on this one. How do you say take a bath or to bathe?
Yeah.
Pade.
Alright, so for this one, let's have a small group discussion, okay? You guys have a consensus about which term you use for taking a bath. And then I will go around the tables here and pick people.
장해. 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 아니야. 장해.
장해. How seats?
Dito.
Alright, are we ready? Alright, the lucky table. So, Isha and I will go around and interview people what their table's answer is, or consensus is. Okay, let's move on to this table. Please mention your name. Yeah, the catalog, where do you live, and what is the word for to take a bath?
I'm Ilata po from Davao. Suecia.
Her answer is Suesin. Suesin from Davao. Okay, let's keep that going.
Okay, so from here, can I ask someone? So, can you introduce yourself, where you're from, and then what do you usually say to take a bath?
I'm Howell Herrera from Cotabato City, actually. Sanghe.
Zhanghe.
Sanghe.
Zhanghe.
Yes.
Sanghe.
Zhanghe. That's the pronunciation. Zhanghe. I heard Zhanghe.
Yeah,
Zhanghe.
that's the one I was looking
Zhanghe.
for.
Ah,
Some
So
people
he
say
says
Zhanghe.
Zhanghe.
Zhanghe. How about, okay, so we have another person. Please introduce yourself and then where you're from.
I'm Jason Lu from Davao City. You also say maybe the Zhangxin, 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 or Xinku, or Xinku is in Zhangxin, Zhangxin.
Zhangxin, Zhangyat, but it's Zhangxin, Xinku is in body. Zhangxin, Suesin, and Zhanghe. Okay, one more?
I actually want to ask this table, but the mic limitation is not
The
great.
microphone.
So he says from Davao, ikaw Zhanghe.
Yeah. All right. Anyone outside of Cotabato, Davao, and yeah. So anyone else from other regions? Maybe our speakers.
I've heard some say Tsui. Tubig.
zang zui, or to make
So,
a good bond.
kami in Zamboanga, we are more used to using Zanghiya.
That's really interesting because for me, I say zang ya without the he sound. Zang ya.
I say Zangka, and I'm from Manila, so.
Okay, so it's like I noticed that in Manila it's mostly zang ya, the A, and in the south it's zang ye, or zang zin, or Swiss. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. There's very many different variants of that word. Should we get just one more word now? Just in one more word. Sige.
Yeah, one more.
Okay, one more, let's go. How do you say yourself? Yourself,
Same, so the word for yourself, how do you refer to yourself? Me, myself. What? Blank.
myself, right?
Alright, so let's have a group discussion again.
So for me, I'd say, or the audience go. So for me, I refer to myself as Kaiki.
Same as mine, Kaiki.
Kaiki, no? How about, are there any other, anyone else have a different pronunciation?
Different pronunciation.
Unsin.
Unsin, Unsin tỏ là tỏ là làm. Đào làm. So the ta vào Unsin. So we have Unsin, we have Kaiki. Anyone else speak from that side of the room? Okay, so Davao Kaki. Kaki. Right? So okay, so who here, let's do a quick survey. Who here says Kaiki? To refer to self. Kaiki. Kaki. Kaki, what kaki? What unsin, me, myself. Oh. Okay, this table has a very interesting demographic, I think. Yes?
I think, I'm not sure if it's like how it's used or what context. I'm Joshua from Davao, by the way, because I think punsin is like if you do something yourself, like punsin something. I did it myself, and then kaiki is like if you're alone or you're saying you're on your own. So kaiki can't or something like that. If you're I don't know.
It's possible that there's some meaning differences, I guess. But I'm gonna agree that kaiki and kaki, at least those are two ways of saying the same thing. Yeah? Alright, so I guess the panel will be, we can, one more question, but the last question maybe.
We're gonna move on now. We're finished with the pronunciation differences, demonstrating the differences in pronunciation. Let's go back to a few more questions. Do you feel that younger Danangs in your region speak differently than older ones? What do you notice from their speech pattern?
I guess in the younger generation, we speak broken Chinese, so we mix it with Bisaya and English, whereas the older generation can speak straight Chinese or Hokkien.
The younger generation speaks mix, and Hokkien, then they mix it with English, or sometimes even Mandarin. And then the older generation speaks straight Hokkien, so sometimes the younger generation are kind of intimidated.
So for my case, like what I noticed is that there are a lot of Latinx in my generation who know very little in terms of speaking Hokkien, especially those mga half Chinese, 1/4 Chinese, and there is really a growing demand for people who want to actually learn Hokkien or Lanaway. So I think that it's time, for us to be learning more so that we can keep on, spreading the word about Lanaway. Kasi it's a way for us to be able to relate to the people who are in our older generation and bridging that gap with the younger generation around. They will need.
All right, that's about it for the talk show.
Sorry, can we just clarify what you said about broken Chinese? So what do you refer to broken Chinese? Is it the grammar? Are we speaking Lanaway in the English grammar or Tagalog grammar? Or are you saying that we are mixing? Could you clarify what broken?
Mixing the words. They can speak direct Lanaway, so they incorporate English words in the middle.
Thank you.
I also want to clarify, do we really have to call it broken Lanaway or broken Chinese in the first place? You don't say, for Tagalog, you never say, if I'm saying broken Tagalog, so bakit Lanaway, we have to say broken Chinese? It's just something to think about. I'm not asking you guys to change the way you think, but just think about it. Because we say Taglish, but why do we only say broken Tagalog? Even if we mix a lot with Tagalog or whatever Visaya, we also mix a lot, right? We never say, oh, it's broken Visaya. No, we don't. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. So we're in the Q&A portion now. Okay.
Any one or two questions, and then we go to the break. So, does anyone have a follow-up question? Yes? We have room for two questions, so I have John.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm from, I'm like Davao, Davao person. So my question is to Liz, no? Because I spent some time used to Lewis, so it's good. The character debates that I pick around. It's only one place, it's true. Rider double plus, whole Chinese, not itching, big of it, they say, I don't know, I've heard that, but others in SLU itself, they call the Chinese as that.
Yeah, I think no, because when I was in high school, I had a classmate. She has her roots, I believe her father's side is from Sulu. So yeah, they would refer to the Chinese as Danangs also. So kasi if I'm not mistaken, their side of the family in Sulu was the one who established the, I don't know if it still exists though, yung Sulu Hongjin School, I don't know if it still exists, but yeah, her family has ties to that institution. So when I hear her speak, no, they are referring to the Chinese as Danang also.
Any more questions from the audience?
I'd like to ask, what's your opinion on, especially with Lisbeth, what's your opinion on how Mandarin learning kind of influences, learning Hokkien? Do you think it competes with it? Do you think it makes it easier or more difficult?
That's a good question. I like answering questions like that now. So for me, in my personal experience, given that I got more used to Mandarin and then revisiting Hokkien now, I think my knowledge in Mandarin is able to help me absorb Hokkien faster. Yun nga lang, like, my brain has to work double because whenever I hear something that is not very familiar to me in Hokkien, I process it in Mandarin first and look for something that sounds like it, no? Na parang, ano ba? Like sometimes people would say sweet yen, no? They start their sentences with sweet yen. And then I think, oh, that is suiran in Mandarin. So parang I will be able to form a connection
between Sweden and Soiran because my knowledge in Mandarin is able to contribute to that pattern forming in my head. So I think na being able to think in both Hokkien and Mandarin at the same time is advantageous for the Lanangs everywhere who have their roots in Fujian, no? Kasi other parts of China will not be exposed to Hokkien as much naman. So if you can learn both, why not, no? Kasi for me, like, I teach Mandarin. I've been teaching Mandarin for 3 years now, and then I started teaching Hokkien last year. So for me, like, given that there are some materials that are written in Mandarin first, and then later on we can introduce how it's being written in Hokkien or Lanang. So parang it will be easier to have the connections form once you are exposed to both languages. So thank you po.
Can I answer that question? So, my take here is that we should be open to teaching both. Like, not prioritizing Mandarin over Hokkien, because we're removing a huge chunk of our language that we are communicating with our parents. We're doing business. If how do you call this? Mainland Chinese people can come here even if in why can't we who are living in this country speak in? We can have both, but not to prioritize one over the other, to not lose the language that our family has really taught us. And it's also one way to actually get to know our grandmothers, how deep they are, how nice their story is, their journey to coming from the Philippines. So, in a sense, we should welcome all the languages. So that's my answer to that. Yes.
As for growing up, when we were studying Chinese school, we normally, because we have a Hokkien background, the 30 countries, we always, even in kindergarten, we say so si chu, we always start jiao si ka. So we're learning 2 languages, because at home, especially maybe for my generation, we speak Hokkien at home, but we're learning Mandarin at school. So we use Hokkien to teach Mandarin. It's like learning Mandarin by using English, right? So I would believe, because currently the mode of instruction is purely in Mandarin, regardless of whether you're Hokkien. You don't speak. I don't at school maybe, but I'm not. That's what I heard. They're espousing Mandarin in school, even though for Hokkien, for us, it would be like learning a new language, right? So I would believe going back to what we were doing before would be better, because you still maintain the Lanang way. Otherwise, it could be slowly it could become extinct. It's a dialect that is slowly being slowly. Even I believe if you go back to China and Hokkien, they're also speaking the Putonghua. So basically, everybody is speaking in the younger generation. They're speaking Putonghua over the local dialect, especially the younger ones. Because it's cool, I think. Putonghua is being encouraged, right?
Yeah, that's right. I totally agree with that. Okay, so I'm just gonna close it off first. That's very interesting that, Mandarin, we have many materials of that, the internet, or there's many, it's readily available resources on it. It's Hokkien or Lanang for the matter that is very difficult for someone who has not so much knowledge in it or zero knowledge to begin learning it, because the resources itself is very limited. But that's why we have this community here, no? We have this Donna organization. It's to encourage everyone to learn or to continue learning the Alaboy to help preserve the language. So you can always come up to one of us later if you want, if you have any questions. How to say this, how to say that, you know. Always be encourage you guys to continue learning the language. Okay, so thank you guys for participating. Thank you guys for listening. That would be it.